I want to start with a question, and that is that if Heavenly Parent wanted to create a world full of love, where would Heavenly Parent begin? Where would you start? You want to make the world... Who said that? Jing, My man, took the words out of my mouth. Family, right? The most fundamental building block of the world, of humanity, of society. Family. That's where you would begin. And yeah, it makes sense, right? Because you cannot get more fundamental than the family. We are all here because of family, right? We're all here because one man and one woman decided that they wanted to procreate. That is the literal reason every single one of us is alive in this room. We all have a family, and all of our families look very different. All of our families look very, very different, right? Sean, you gracefully shared about your story, 2 weeks ago. And one thing that we can highlight is everybody's family is different, and we all go through different struggles and challenges, right? But I think there is a standard. There is a standard that was laid out at the dawn of time, upon creation, that God had for each and every family in the world. And that is a standard that I want to speak about today. I want to go and I want to uncover, what God wanted for each and every one of our families, and what is achievable and what we should be striving for as cult members, as young people. I'm speaking more prophetically because we don't have any guests in here. As people, this is what we want to be striving for, right? This is what we should be striving for. So the ideal of the family is what I'm going to be speaking about. Now, what does an ideal family look like, right? Let's ask the principle. Let's ask our source of truth. And in this diagram, right, you can find many times referred to in the divine principle of the four-position foundation, right? We have four people here. We have man, we have woman, husband and wife, we have God, and we have children. And, in this diagram, it's very important to look, I think it's fair to say we start with man and woman. We have husband and wife, and when they have give and take with each other, when they have real love for each other, true love, right? Not like a love of I just like the way you look, or I like your personality, or just those things. I mean, those things are important, but just those things. Like, I only like you because of that. And the minute you stop being funny, the minute I see you without your makeup on, or you become different, I'm gone, right? That kind of love. I mean, it's funny, right? But the thing is, in the world, that's not, in this fallen world that we live in, that's not that much of an uncommon situation, unfortunately. So what this model shows is the complete opposite of that. True love. I love you, and I'm going to be with you, and I commit to you in the hard times and the difficult times. When you have that kind of, that love, and once you include God in that relationship as well, we're starting this relationship because we want to do something with our marriage. We want to create good human beings. We want to literally make better people from ourselves. That's what it means to have a God-centered marriage. I think sometimes we can say God-centered, but we don't really... What does that actually mean? It's a fantastic concept, but in practicality, what does it mean? It means getting married with intentionality. We're doing this for something bigger than ourselves, for God, in that we're going to raise kids, we're going to create kids that are going to grow up in the knowledge of God and going to follow a God-centered life, right? And once you have that, you have your child, you have your children. And that child, with all those resources, with that love from the mom and dad, with that connection to God, is going to be a great kid. It's going to be a great person who's going to be a good influence on his friends, who's going to be a good person, ultimately in society, the nation, and the world, right? This is the paradigm. That is something that we lost at the time of the fall, right? We lost it because Adam and Eve didn't have this God-centered intention. Not going too deep into the fall, but that relationship wasn't God-centered. It was, I need to fill a need right now, and we're going to engage in a sexual relationship without God, right? That was the nature of the fall, and that is what caused this. where it's the opposite of that, right? You don't have God in there. And for that reason, a negative impact gets spread to the society, the nation, and the world, right? This is the opposite of the ideal. Now, things that hinder the ideal in this world, because the reason I bring these up is because in order to understand the ideal, we have to understand what the ideal isn't as well. And that would be things like when things get too hard, divorce, right? Husband and wife, when things just become, when there's a disagreement that they're not willing to figure out, they'll just call it a day. And then or perhaps when they see a funnier, more charismatic, younger person, they'll just say, oh, I'll call it quits and I'll start a new family elsewhere, right? That's not ideal. Adultery, right? Having multiple relationships, having relationships outside marriage, and abuse, right? These are all things that are so far away from what an ideal family can look like. What this has shown us should be like. So this diagram really does just illustrate that family is where we can learn also all types of love. You know, this is where we learn how to love our spouse. It's where we learn how to love our children. It's where our children receive love from our parents, and then it's where also children can experience relationship with their siblings as well. Successful families create children that spread love out into society, nation, and world, and the world benefits as a result. So clearly this model has a lot of benefits to it. And ultimately, I think this is the ideal. This is something that God intended at the dawn of time that we should be striving towards. But how do we get there? How do we get there? How do we get to that point? And before I answer that question, I didn't arrange my slides correctly. So let's backtrack 1 second and just again examine practically what impacts this ideal model has. Well, if you look at crime, communities of more stable two-parent families tend to have a much lower crime rate. I mean, that's kind of just makes sense. Education, family environments are one of the strongest predictors of a child's academic success. Mental and emotional health. Children from stable families generally show better mental health and social development. Economic stability. Strong families encourage responsibility, work stability, and long-term planning, which strengthens economies. And social stability. Families are the primary place where values, empathy, and cooperation are learned. You know, all of those things are quintessential for any successful society, economy, country to function, right? So we know it's important, but again, how do we actually make that a reality? How do we actually get there? And I think there's two things, because most of us in this room are single, right? We don't have partners yet. We're not in marriages. So you might be thinking, what was that? You might be thinking there's not that much to be done. I can't really do that much at the moment. This is something that's going to happen later in my life. But I want to tell you that no, you can be doing so much right now to start laying the ground for your future family. And I want to say that the best prep for your future family is your current family. The current family in which you live. This is a place where you can genuinely practice all the things that you're going to need for your future family. And just to illustrate, I mean, before ever even starting my matching journey, one thing that I thought is that the most important thing I'm going to need is a developed heart, a heart that can truly love. And one thing I struggled with was accepting my parents, because sometimes my dad, sometimes he does things that to me, like just, it makes me cringe, or genuinely will kind of like annoy me a little bit, you know? And my father has always the best intentions, always the best intentions. But I was too immature. And one thing I had to do was I had to learn to accept my dad. My dad is my dad. He's a 63-year-old man. He's not going to change, and he shouldn't have to change just to meet my own expectations of him. You know, he is the way that he is. And I love him for that. And I'm going to stop right now criticizing my dad for X, Y, Z, wishing he was some kind of different person. But instead, I'm just going to take my dad as the full package. You know, he is who he is. And I love that. And I'm gonna quit wasting time criticizing or wishing something different, because that's not acceptance. That's not. That's me saying I only like my dad sometimes when he does things that make me happy. That's not love. That's conditional. That is not true, right? And the thing that I think we need, one of the most important things, is unconditional true love before you get, you go into your blessing. So from that moment, I try it's not suddenly you accept your parents all the time. It's something you always have to be conscious of, but I do it now. I consciously choose to just accept my dad. Like, oh, dad, that joke was trash, but it's all right. It's okay. I understand your heart. I totally get it. You just wanted to say something funny and you wanted to lighten the mood. I love you. I'm not gonna make a big deal out of it. My mother is the same. My mother's Japanese. She's very one way sometimes. Very, very stubborn. Won't compromise. And that's something that most of my family struggled with. But that is also something I want to just accept. That's the way that my mom's is. That's my mom's character. And I accept that, man. Like, again, I'm not going to be this crap son who just only has a good time with his parents when they make me happy. No, I'm gonna love you even in the times when, things are kind of annoying, because I think that is true love. That's unconditional, right? No strings attached. So that's something that I've been trying to do, and genuinely it has had incredible benefits just for other relationships, but also mostly for that, going into the matching. So that's something that I think is something that each one of us can already do. We can all just, have a nice chat with our mom and dad, just take them out for dinner one day, start doing something for them. That will improve your heart 100%. So the next point that I want to mention is your future family starts with you. Starts with you, man. Like, it isn't the case, right, where suddenly one day you hit a number, you hit 25 or you hit 24, 23, whatever number, and it's like, oh yeah, suddenly I must be ready now to get matched. Family, let's do it. Now is the time, just because suddenly I'm a certain age. No, it starts with you whenever. And it starts with you as soon as you choose. And you can choose right now to just start working on yourself and being a good person, right? We go back to this diagram, and the two most fundamental aspects of here are man and woman. A man who's taken the time to really work on him, get to a good level. A woman who's done the same thing, who's worked on herself, who's worked on her heart, who's maybe learned a couple of skills. And, both of these people ideally will have worked on themselves. They'd have mastered their relationships in their own family, like I said, with their mom and dad. They would have learned how to have good mind-body unity, be a disciplined person. They would have maybe volunteered for a couple of things to really share their love, maybe done a program like CORE, staffed at CARP, been more active at church. All of these things will compound to make you a more capable person to receive the blessing when it comes. So that's something I want to highlight. Our families aren't just going to spawn in. We have to lay the groundwork. We have to lay the foundations for it to come. And if that means joining CORE, David's not here, but if it means joining CORE, the High Noon program, then go for it, man. If it means joining some matching workshop, go for it. If it means, if it means doing a 3-day fast, go for it. But just start doing it. Start doing it now. Everything that you do now will benefit you 1,000-fold when you actually start your relationships. 100%. God designed us in our singlehood period for a reason. There's a reason we spend the first 20 so years of our lives single. It's so that we can learn all of the skills that we need to take care of somebody. Being single isn't, we often think like, oh, this is an annoying time. I need to rush through this to get to that. No, man. That was designed with a purpose for us to reach individual perfection, right? The first great blessing, so that we can and are ready to take care of another human being. So, truthfully, that is it. Honestly, it's nice. I don't know. It's a bit of I don't even know how long this has been. But essentially, guys, I just want to say that family is so important. There is an ideal standard that we can strive towards, and we can make efforts for that now. We can start literally right now by just trying to be better people in our own families and just start working on ourselves. Simple message. And before I completely finish, I did just want to read quickly one quick word from True Father just about your ideal absolute standard of love. It was and just very quickly, Father says in God's will in the world that the owner of love, the host of love, who is standing in the absolute position is God. Anyone who steals this godly love without following God's will is a thief. Such a person is a criminal like those who violated the Garden of Eden. You must understand this. The human race, which has inherited the blood lineage of ancestors who fell, has entered into the period when it must reap the fruits of the seeds that it once sowed. Now, we have the chance to rectify all of that and not have selfish love, but have God-centered love, right? That's all something that we can do and we have the power to do. So let's do it. Yay. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it.